Hello, Bigfoot enthusiast. Scott here from Squatch America.
And the domestic goddess, Hannah from the Paddy Wagon Who. Just so you know, tonight's blend is called Fluff Your Nuts.
Tonight's coffee blend is, from Maine. What's it called?
It's Cynthia Jackson's out of New Hampshire. Would you stop? Cynthia Jackson's out of New Hampshire. Of course, I introduced you to her whole This Guy's Nuts line last week. And right now I've tried every flavor, including pistachio. I'm a big pistachio fan, but Fluff Your Nuts is marshmallow fluff and peanut butter. So this really should be called a Boston cream coffee.
Yeah.
But just so you know, she has not sponsored us. She doesn't know who we are, but this is some awesome coffee. I will be ordering more Fluff Your Nuts in the future.
Okay. All right. Well, nice to see Donna's here, Dale's here, Craig's here, and Eyes is here.
And play the intro.
Play the intro, but I'm not ready yet. All right, so tonight, I know what you guys are waiting for.
But first.
Hey, what?
But first, we've got some exciting things coming up in the future for you, including an analysis of a 24-inch footprint that we found here, about 100 feet away from where we're parked right now.
Ooh.
So we have had quite a bit of reported activity in this area. Recent fresh prints of not Bel Air, fresh footprints that we've seen ourselves, people coming up to the truck in the street with recent stories, like as in within the last month or two. So we've got some exciting things from North Maine to share with you in the future. Right. And I just wanted to let you know that tonight's show, as wonderful as it's going to be, will not be the climax of our broadcasting career. We've got more exciting things coming.
No, we don't. Because tonight we have got one of my favorite people. I'll be honest, he did not start out as one of my favorite people. And there's absolutely not a personal reason for that. But tonight we have with us Dr. Christopher Hansen from Anderson University. Dr. Hansen is a professor of choral music and conducting and research and all those things. Yes, did you know that musicians do research? We are to be taken seriously as a hard science. Yes, we are. And the reason he did not start out as one of my favorite people is because he was my research professor. And that sort of thing hurts my brain. And he became one of my favorite people when he literally spent hours, I don't know how to say this, nursemaiding me through research class and talking me down off of ledges and really turned my graduate school as a music student is pretty fun and awesome, but he really made it meaningful for me. And my choir students back home fell in love with him when he did a guest feature for us. But we most recently got to see a different side of him when we had dinner with he and his family, and he and Scott started geeking out over Bigfoot vocalization. So without further ado.
Oh, did I talk enough?
Yes.
Was that a great introduction? And just so everyone knows, it's his choir that I will be participating with at Carnegie Hall next summer. So buy your tickets to New York for June 22nd, I believe now.
Here we go.
All right.
Dr. Christopher Hansen.
Hi, friends.
Hi. So
wow. I first got to say, I don't have a cup of Fluff Your Nuts with me today. But I got to say the ingredients are the same as my mom's favorite sandwich, which is called a Fluffer Nutter, which uses the same. So I think that's where the name came from. It came from the sandwich. And that's pretty awesome. And Hannah, thank you for the introduction. I appreciate that. It's pretty common for folks to have a really hard time with that first class because it's something that is not even close to their identity as a music teacher. And to learn about just so you know, my cat is scratching my feet right now. She is like, give me attention. Man.
Our audience would love to see her.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right, so I have a cat. Her name is Alice, and she's all black. And currently, she's on the floor in front of me. I'm gonna try to get there. And she's got her claws out, and she's been scratching at my feet, trying to get me to play with her. I'm like, I think I'm the only person in the house that actually plays with a cat. My wife just likes the cat to sit on her lap, and Alexander just lets the cat hang out close by. I go all out and play with the cat.
Oh, okay.
All right. So
we got to talking when we were at your house. We got to talking about the Bigfoot vocalizations, and I played a few for you. And I was super interested in what you had to say about the whole take you have on the vocal parts of the throat and how they work. And I don't know that stuff.
Even like the evolution of human speech versus, you know.
Yeah. They didn't teach me any of that in anthropology school. So, but I can tell you how we started walking upright, but that's about it.
Well, yeah. The physiological nature of the human voice is something a choral musician or singer learns in their schooling. And then, of course, I've been conducting choirs for a long time and teaching voice. And I've got a good idea of how sound is produced and then how resonation works. And being in front of singers my entire career, I've got an ear for knowing how those sounds are produced. So yeah, it's really cool. I can either use the geeky physiological scientific names or, you know, standard everyday jargon to help describe this kind of stuff. But I remember that conversation too. And for me, I guess I just started talking. And you guys were like, what is going on? And, you know, I got these new initials added to my name called a PhD. Some call it a FUD, piled higher and deeper. And you know, I'm good at talking about stuff. And people may not care about it, but that's okay.
That's awesome. Yeah, and what it really struck me was the fact I've played these vocalizations for other anthropologists and for, you know, all the lay Bigfoot people out there, and we've all had our conclusions and stuff, but I had never heard, you know, the scientific take that you had on how the sound was produced.
Cool.
And it really puts a different spin on it to me as a researcher to see a whole nother aspect to this that I never even had considered. So that's why I was kind of like, wow, I never thought about that, you know, at your house. But so
shall we get into
shall we get into this? Okay, let's see. I think I got to click this button. There we go. Now this is an aggressive, it's called an aggressive growl, talk, whatever. And there's a whistle at the end of it. I'm not sure. I think this is one I played for you, but there's two parts to this. So you'll hear the talk first and then the whistle, and we can break those up and talk about them separately. But let's see. I think I click this. Let me know if you can hear it. All right.
That's so awesome.
That's number one. So, what did you think of the growl part first? That sound, which
well,
I'm
not a linguist, and
right.
but it did sound like a conversation. To me, it sounded like I mean, I heard two voices. I heard a primary voice that was closer to the recorder and a secondary voice that was further away from the recorder. It didn't sound mean or aggravated. To me, it sounded more like I'm not, maybe even jovial or joyful. And I might have to listen to it again. But okay, I almost thought I heard a laugh.
What? Oh, we can do it again. Okay.
I almost thought I heard a laugh at one point.
Okay, here we go. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, you could, at the very beginning, you know, and this is something I got to be very clear with. Okay. We all have our own lens of experience. So we associate sounds with emotion. We associate sounds with our past. We associate sounds with so many things that informs what we hear. So what I hear, other people might not hear. Like, I think if I were to flip my head around, I could hear a parent yelling at a child. I could hear a parent telling a child what to do. But at the same time, I'm hearing the sound of what it sounds to be a mature adult male saying something aggressively, maybe with passion or with some sort of visceral intent. And then when we get to that whistle at the end, it's coming from that same voice. It's not a different voice. I think it's coming from that primary voice. And the reasoning behind that is, number one, it's at the same amplitude as the original sound we heard at the beginning because of the proximity of the animal or the person, the being, to the microphone. And let's think about it. Like, I can make that whistling sound too with my hand. Like, some people make those whistling sounds, but I think that whistling sound came from its voice and not from some other way. But I don't know. I wasn't there and I'm not watching it. But I really liked, I really thought it was fascinating, like how fast the sounds were. And let's think about words for a second. Words are broken up into individual sounds. And we call those, many people call it phonetics, and they're actually called phonemes. And they're these parts of words. And there's syntax and there's all these other things. And it almost has that feel like a conversation is being had. It sounds like there is an intelligent conversation in another language, and it's intentional. It's not just random noise. It sounds very intent. And that last thing at the end, I can't tell if it's a call, if it's a response, if it's, I don't know. Again, I'm not a linguist and I haven't followed this kind of stuff before, but I can tell it's coming from that same voice.
All right. So this is stuff I have never told you before, but this was actually analyzed by the linguistic department at Ohio State University.
Oh, cool.
And one of the statements they did say was the whistle was from a voice, not from whistling. It was from the throat.
Yes. Yes. And I think I can hear the sound of a vocal fold vibrating. And that's different than lips vibrating or other things vibrating. So the vocal fold's clearly there. And let's break this down really quickly and succinctly. We have a wide range of vocal sounds that we can make as a human race. And one of the registers that we have is actually called the whistle register. And it's not regularly accessed by the average human being because it's not something we use in our speech anymore. But we don't use it because our social norms dictate where we speak with our tone, with our inflection, with our volume, and even the range of pitches that we use. But in singing, we have 4 registers. We have the modal register, which is the register I'm using now to speak. It's the register that we all use, and it's the primary register that most popular music is coming from. We call that the chest voice. Then we have what we call is the head voice, which some of us, like male singers, will call it the falsetto. Then we have the vocal fry, which is like the lowest sounds we can make. And then we have the really high sound, which is called the whistle register. And we have trained singers who access the whistle register and can flip-flop between modal, which is our normal speaking register, to the whistle register immediately. And it's amazing.
I think Mariah Carey could do that, actually.
Yeah, back in the day. I don't know about now. Yeah. Well, that's cool that they did that. Ohio State, you said, or the Ohio State?
It was, Ohio State University. Yeah, they're
That's awesome.
They're I guess they have a linguistics department. So,
and they also said that there was recognizable syntax. So
yeah, I absolutely could hear that right away.
That's kind of cool. All right, so let's go on to the next one here. Oh, that was the same one. Here we go.
So right now, that sounded like somebody was getting ready to get yelled at.
Yeah, it was.
Where you stopped it. All right, cool.
Yeah, it was. Oh wait, it's just
okay. You're pushing the wrong button.
I am pushing the wrong buttons. Here we go. It keeps disappearing on me. Okay. Why is it not playing?
Huh.
Yeah, here we go. The stuff that
that's the wrong one.
I know. Let's try this one. See if it works.
You should drop this.
That is so fascinating. That is so fascinating.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to unpack what I think I heard. I think I heard a human making calls, but I think I heard two other responses to that one. I think there might have been three going on, including the human person speaking to the other. Because I could be wrong. It could have been one. It could have been one other. Like if you would imagine a person speaking in one direction and turning, acoustically, we would hear it differently because we would be hearing the sounds reflecting off of trees, off of rocks, off of the land. And I'm just thinking about how I was hearing it just now, because some of it was louder than others, and some of it was clearer than others. Some of them was very muddled. So interesting. There was a moment in that recording where I just got really excited. I'm not going to lie. I got really excited because it sounded like, I don't know. Do you think I don't know who the person was. Do you know who the people were who were making the recording?
I do.
Who were doing the call?
Yeah, I know them personally.
Oh, okay, cool. Were they making, please excuse me for being a novice and not understanding. Were they making noises that were trying to be representative of the sounds that they had heard, or were they just making random sounds?
No, what they heard the sound and then he tried to mimic it back to try to get a response. Oh,
so then the sounds that we were hearing back was the other responding to what they heard as an echo. It could have been a response to something's copying me. I'm going to call back and see if they're going to respond back and do it the same way. And it could have been an authentic try to actually communicate.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think there's a climax in that recording. There's a clear climax. And it almost sounds like an aha moment to me. Now I'm trying to think of anything like of use that I can contribute to the dialogue here with this. And the first thought that I have is my gut tells me that this is a female. And compared to the previous recording that we've already heard, you can note that there are different timbre qualities, which is the colors of the sound, and texture and thickness. When you listen to me talk, even through this device, you can go, oh, that guy probably sings low voice when he sings. And if you heard a tenor or an alto, you would hear their voice. A lot of voice people can tell what part you sing in a chorus based on your speaking voice. And we can tell in our own society if a person is male or female, or we can even tell where they're from based on the qualities of the sound that they're using. So when I'm listening to this, my gut says, this sounds like a female voice. Whether it would be a human or not, I would say, this sounds like a female voice. And the reasoning for that, the pitches specifically, because I would say it was be in that modal register, because we didn't hear a whistle. We didn't hear any low stuff. And I'm sure that these, I'm going to call them folks, they can use a variety of sounds, and they can access a lot of sounds. But let's think what your natural instinct is when you communicate. You use your natural modal register. And that sounded very female to me. Did you have any specific questions for me on this, or did you just want me to talk?
No, just talk. Yeah, we're
okay.
We've got the chat blowing up.
Yeah,
so just talk.
we're getting a different.
Okay, cool. So like, there's
this
this really cool thing that a lot of people don't realize, and I know we've only heard 2 recordings, but I have a lot in my mind that I want to share. And if we want to get to other recordings before I start unpacking all this, you let me know. You interrupt. But
okay.
Physiologically, we got to think about how these sounds are produced. A lot of us are familiar with certain terms, right? We're familiar with mouth, throat, neck, esophagus, or the other word for throat, voice box. Sometimes some people might know the word trachea. They might even know the word like bronchi or bronchial tube and lungs, right? We might know the word nose and nasal. We might know the word sinus. But these are all words that we use to describe very specific areas of the body. And what's really important for us to know is the characteristics between what we see as a female versus a male, male versus female sound. Across most mammals, male voices are going to be larger, deeper, and have really resonant qualities. And a female is going to have a smaller instrument or a smaller voice. It's still going to have resonance. It still can be powerful. Just ask my mom. You can still get very, very, very awesome sounds, but there's going to be timbral differences, and there's going to be range, like the amount of notes they can actually access that are going to be very different. So I know there's people watching us, but everybody likes to do this. So feel your own neck. You'll feel inside this neck, there's a bump in there. Now, some of us have the really large bump. Some of us have a really small bump. We call that the Adam's apple or the Eve's apple. So we have everybody included. The Adam's apple is actually the peak of a part of our body called the larynx. And the larynx is the voice box. Inside the larynx, we have vocal folds, which are the vocal cords, if you will. And we have a variety of cartilages that build up this awesome thing that vibrates and creates sound. Now, males, their larynxes are almost twice, if not more than twice as large as a female's larynx, which means the vocal cords or the vocal folds are longer and thicker. And when they're longer and thicker, that means they can actually vibrate with lower notes. Let's think about a piano for a second. Most people know what a piano looks like. And if you open the lid and you look at the strings, the really low notes are really long and really thick strings. And the really high notes are really short and really thin strings. So if we were to take those and put them inside the voice box, the really long and really thick strings are going to sing low notes, and the thin, short strings are going to make high notes. Does that make sense? That's pretty simple. So we can hear really quickly if they're doing really low notes, that's easily going to be identifiable as a male, because there's notes a female cannot sing because their voices physically cannot create those sounds. And then there's the next part. That's just here in this voice box right here in the larynx. Directly behind the larynx, between the windpipe and the esophagus, we call that the laryngopharynx. This is the primary resonant area in a person's voice. Everybody's laryngopharynx, the space right behind the voice box, right in front of the esophagus, is a different size. If you're a guy, naturally it's going to be larger, because men are predominantly larger in size than females. Then you have the oropharynx, which is the space in the back of the mouth, and the nasopharynx, which is a space that's behind the nasal cavity. All of this is called the pharynx, and it's an actual part of your body we just call the throat. It's the part where the doctor says, ah, and you look in there and swab stuff around. The larger the pharynx, the more resonant the voice can be. The smaller, the less resonant a voice can be. And if it's large and it has more resonance, that means the sound you're going to hear is going to have what we call more timbre or more color, or it's going to feel stronger, because there's so many more overtones that are being accessed psychologically that we can process with our brains. The smaller, there's a lower or a smaller amount that we can access. So that last recording, I heard a different resonance and a different sound than I heard from the prior one, which had a lot more sound. And of course, this is all subjective too. I mean, I'm trying to be as objective as possible, but yeah. I'm listening through these headphones made by Samsung, coming through this computer made by Mac, right? Coming through a wireless internet. You're in Maine, I'm in South Carolina. And yeah. There's so many factors, confounding factors that goes into this. So everything I say, and Hannah, you'll appreciate this, everything I say must be reviewed with a degree of caution. I cannot take anything and say I'm proof of anything, right?
Yeah.
These are just my thoughts as I'm listening to it and understanding it. Anyway, I'll share more as we continue.
Okay, yeah. There's some people who they've had recorders that have recorded stuff from these creatures, or these people, as you said, and they have reached the what's that word? Infrasound levels, where it was so low that we can't hear it,
but we
Absolutely.
can feel it.
Yeah, but
your body can feel it.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
yeah.
And that actually is a freaky. Most people are terrified, which of course is the point of infrasound. Is
it says no, they say that tigers do this to create fear in other creatures, that they can growl low enough to put things into a fight or flight situation without them even hearing anything. They can feel it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did have a couple questions on there. Something about the Ohio call.
Yeah, we're gonna actually get to that.
The Ohio call is we're gonna get to that. And Joe, we will answer that question you have at the end of the show.
Yep. Okay. All right. So.
All right. Next sound
is. Here we go.
Don't push that one over there.
Got it.
Too many buttons.
Yeah, I got to flip this over here, and then we go like this.
Is that it?
No, that's it.
That's a fascinating one. It is such an incredible specimen too, because there's something unique in this that we're not hearing in the others. And I would liken it to a yodel. Think about the yodel that we hear. We hear people who flip between two different vocal registers, and we hear what we call a break. And the Italian word for that in music is called the passaggio. It is a specific place in which the vocal mechanism uses one dominant muscle group to make noise, to make sound, and it switches over to another muscle group to make sound. And I only talked about one muscle, which the vocal folds that creates sound. But we don't all really know this. There's actually different groupings of muscles throughout the vocal mechanism that control the length and the thickness of the vocal folds. See, the vocal folds, they can just, they're the only muscle in the body that can thicken and harden in any position.
Wow.
That's how they vibrate. There's multiple other muscle groupings that actually mechanically stretch or shorten the length of these vocal folds, allowing them to access different pitches. And I just love this. If I were in a choir, that's kind of a thing I'd like my choir to do. We call that a glissando. It's a slide up, and then you slide through the break, and you continue up. And that's such a wonderful, clean sound as they move. But I love the fact that the break isn't masked or hidden. It's clear. We can hear where that break is, and that break is in the same spot every time, and that is so cool. If everybody listening, you went through this thing I like to call the Great Change, and this is when you were going through puberty as a young person, and your voice was changing, and you might recall when you were talking up here, and then all of a sudden you were here, and then you were here. And if you were to go, woo, oh, did you hear that click? Let me go the other way. Ooh, did you hear that click? We all have that. But some of us in our society, in our culture, lose that top half because we never access it in our adulthood. That's why we have lots of men who will try to sing high and they just get louder.
Yeah.
Sing higher. They're like, They've forgotten how to access that up here sound. Wow, I'm Mickey Mouse. How are you? Wow.
Yeah.
Woo. But see, I want to bring this up. This is such a great idea. See, women have a register that's wide, but men have a wider register because we can go lower. I can sing as high as a female, but a female can't sing as low as me, which is really cool. And when you think about basses and sopranos, or basses, tenors, and altos and sopranos in a choir, people are fascinated when they learn that basses are sometimes the highest falsettists, because we can access the falsetto in a much different way than other voices. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like, this sound we heard was a male, and it could go much lower into that low register you mentioned earlier, and still access this really awesome high whooping sound. That's such a cool. That's a fascinating recording.
Oh wow, that's cool.
All right,
I'm glad you
let's
like that.
keep moving.
Moving right along.
Doogadoon, doogadoon.
Oh,
here we go.
okay.
Right,
Now,
Donna.
actually, now I'm going to play you 3 different ones coming up.
Okay.
And so I'll have to jump to each one, but they're recorded by actually a gal who's on the chat right now with us. These were recorded in Vermont, and Donna, forgive me, but could you put in the chat when you recorded these, how long ago? And we'll play these for Dr. Hansen right now. Okay.
3 in a row.
3 in a row. So I got to switch screens every time. So here we go. Boom. I wish it would just quit disappearing on me.
Where is it?
Where is it? It's not there.
Well, whoops. 2019.
Yeah, 2019. Hold on. Let's try number 2. Oh, why aren't they playing? Do you hear them? No. Oh, you got to be kidding me.
Can you access it directly off your computer?
There is a different way to skin this cat. Okay.
Okay, we're gonna. Yeah. No offense to Miss Alice.
Yeah, Alice, they didn't say that to you. It's okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna do it this way.
While you're digging this up, one thing I would love to do is to actually have these play through a spectrograph.
Oh,
that would be awesome.
I have access to a spectrograph, and I can play recordings, and it will show me the full spectrum of the resonance of every single note, every single partial, every single thing. And I would love to do that.
We'll send you the files. Okay, play.
Let's see if this works. I did not hear it. Did you?
I did not.
Oh, come on. They were working just 5 minutes ago. Is it playing over there? Did something get muted?
There's always something.
There's always something. Okay, let me dump this and start over.
I love it. They've got a great little tab here called Having Issues. Does anyone really want to know? Share audio. Okay.
Let's try this again.
Donna 1.
Where did it go? Still not playing it. That is so odd. Because I was listening to it earlier. Try it if you hear this one.
Well, this is embarrassing.
It is. I had this all.
I will have to say our audience is used to this.
Yeah. All right, I got to. Let's dump the show and try it again.
Dump the show?
No, this.
The PowerPoint.
The PowerPoint.
Click.
Not happening. All righty. You know, of course, I went through all these right before the show.
Every show is organic.
Yes, it is. Let's try this one just for fun, and I'll work on the other ones. Let's see if you can hear this.
Oh yeah, heard that clear as a bell.
Yeah.
That was really high. It almost sounds like a call. Clearly, it sounds like it's at night. It's not during the daytime. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay. Yeah, this is a recording that I actually got myself in Oregon.
Oh, cool.
About 3 years ago, and it was at night. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Because at night we can hear a lot more because all of the noise pollution from other animals and from daily life is gone, and so we hear things a lot differently. But that was just a really neat sound. It sounded like a call to me, some kind of long range communication.
Oh, wow.
That was my thought, and I think about societies that use calls over long, how do you say this? Over great distances. And we think about sounds that can echo, sounds that can break through it. And let's think about this concept. Singers who are classically trained, specifically opera, they can still be heard over an entire orchestra, but they're not necessarily loud. They're actually resonating with a lot more notes in their sound envelope than what common speech would be like. And so when we hear those like Renee Flemings, those sopranos that sing really high and it just carries over, I'm reminded of that in this. It sounds like a call that's distance oriented. I'm trying to communicate really far away at night. Of course, I don't know. I'm just I'm kind of guessing on that. I'm thinking, why would that sound be made? Were they excited? I don't know.
Wow.
Well, excited. It was evening during huckleberry season.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Ooh.
exciting.
Yeah. I wonder if I can play it just live from here.
Well, try.
All right. We're going to try one more here, see if I can get this to work.
Donna, we really want these to work.
Yeah.
That's backwards.
Okay, that's one. When did Donna say these were?
2019. And number 3.
All right. Those were recorded in Vermont in 2019 and different occasions.
You know, different occasions, but it sounded like the same voice, all three.
Yeah. Yep.
They were, oh, wow. So and my first thought was that these were 3 recordings at the same time, just over the course of one evening. So these were 3 recordings over a longer period of time in 2019.
So. Yeah, in Townsend, Vermont.
Well,
she's on the chat right now.
Donna, could you put in the chat what the time interval was? You got these 3 recordings over what kind of
time interval?
Yeah, what span of time? Was it over a week, over a month, whatever?
Or the same evening at different times? I don't know.
Yeah.
Same night, she said.
Oh,
it was
wow.
the same night, but 3 different times. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then that helps out a great deal, because I was thinking, and I don't want to get too deep into things I really don't know much about, was like, what are we trying to communicate here? And I feel things when I hear these recordings. I don't just hear a noise. I feel things. Like one I thought it was, laughter. And then I thought it could have been aggression. And then I heard another and I thought there was like a peak and there's some emotive quality. And that's something I want to point out to everybody here that's listening is that when you're hearing communication that has meaning, you feel it. Like you actually feel it, regardless of what language it is. If you're in another country listening to a mom talking to a child, you feel the energy. And so I felt something in this recording. And if it was over the course of multiple nights, but it was the same voice, I would have had a different interpretation of that sound than when I know it's all happening in one evening. So those are the 2 notes that we heard each time.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And it was in the same vocal placement. It wasn't changing between registers, although it was 2 distinctive notes. That a minor third?
I was thinking yes.
Did you know the minor third is a universal across all cultures across the world with our folk songs?
Isn't that what's called the millennial whoop? Because all the millennial pop stars like Katy Perry are.
You have this. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm so happy you said that. Yeah. Okay, so like in our modern era, that would be the millennial whoop. But if you go back to all of the nursery rhymes and all of the songs that kindergartner kids were singing in the playground, and you go to all of the different cultures around the entire world, the minor third is a universal. And isn't that fascinating that we would hear that with a species like this communicating? Now, it could be a youth. That would be a great transfer, right? What is it, a youth? Is it a youth, making a sound, singing to itself? Is it a mom consoling a youth? Here's another thing. Nursery rhymes that we use in our culture to console or to comfort our youth use the same interval as well. And so this goes back to the meaning. When I was listening to that recording, it sounded, my first thought was mother and concern.
Wow. Okay.
It's okay. I'm not an empath here, and I'm not trying to figure that out. But I had that when I heard the minor third descend, it was cautionary. It was also soft. I want to point this out. The amplitude, even though it was carrying, I could tell it was at night and the sound was carrying, it wasn't as loud as the previous sound. And you can tell by the resonance, it wasn't as strong. There was definitely a bit more of an aspirate quality to it. When I say the word aspirate, that might not translate well. It's breathy. The vocal folds, if we think about what shape they make, they're shaped like a V. And at this point we all were playing with earlier in our throats, here at the peak of the apex, if you will, of the larynx, your vocal folds come to a point. And in the back, there's these two arytenoid cartilages that sit on top of the cricoid cartilage. And it closes and opens the vocal folds. Now, when they close, but don't close all the way, there's a small hole. And that small hole allows breath to go through, and it creates an aspirate sound. We hear it a lot of times in singing and in talking. A person who speaks with a full sound, they have full vibration. And a person who speaks with a soft sound, they don't have full vibration. There's a slight gap there. And so when I heard, of course, it could be the sound, the quality of the recorder. It could have been other sounds creating that hiss. I sensed a slight aspirate. And when I think of a slight aspirate, it also makes me think about intensity. Let's think about it. When you want to share something with somebody, but you don't want to be really loud, what do you intentionally do to your voice? When you think about whispering, you get softer and you create an aspirate sound. And that's, my mind immediately went to that when I heard that sound. I like to reproduce the sound in my own mind and think, how would I produce that sound and what kind of meaning would go behind it? But I could be completely wrong. I think it's fascinating. A minor third, like that is so specific. It wasn't all these other notes we heard and the whoop where we heard the glissando with the break. This was intentional. These notes had meaning. Think about China and their language, the Mandarin specifically. Notes, not just words, but even notes in the words change the complete meaning. So for what we know, this is clear communication from, I'm going to say, from a nurturer to those that are being nurtured in a cautious tone saying, hey, y'all, hey.
And, you know, I'm thinking just even in human culture, when you're nurturing someone, when you're consoling, you have a down tone, you know, because you're trying to bring them down. And so the speech patterns go down. And even, okay, all of us with fur babies, when we love on our fur babies, we don't up talk, we down talk.
Exactly.
Baby talk is down talk.
And Hannah, you're saying what I was feeling. I had that feeling when I heard that recording. Hey, Donna, good job. That was really great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Donna said we made the same call. Oh, I can want to put that up.
Yeah.
I can do that right here.
I got it.
Okay.
Oh, did I just hide it? Probably.
Yeah.
It went away. I saw it blip.
There we go.
We made the same call. The next
And the next call was a lot closer. We went in the house, locked the door. It was very loud. The audio of my phone didn't display.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
She said it was a lot louder than what you heard on the recording in real life. But
okay, did you find
I would imagine. Yeah. I mean, I would say every single one of these recordings in person is a lot louder and feel you could, because here's another thing. And you mentioned it earlier when we talked about low frequencies that we don't hear, but feel. You know, you feel an earthquake, but you don't hear the earthquake, right? That's a vibration, and it does instill things in us. When we feel the sound, it creates an emotive response, and we don't get that in these recordings. So I recognize that. Absolutely.
cool. So let's see if this one works. I'm going to try. Please play. Nope, not hearing it. Okay.
All right.
Oh, I didn't have the screen up though. We could try that. Okay.
Sound effects makes the world a better place.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Groove is not cooperating.
Groove is not cooperating. So, and I tried to look it up on the internet, couldn't find it. So I'm going to have to add that to the chat. So
What?
Fill airtime for
Fill airtime. Oh dear.
Alice, hey Alice, what are you doing, Alice? Are you sleeping? I don't know if I can get my cat on the thing again.
Did we find it? Okay, let's listen to this.
I think I found it on the internet.
Click,
oh, right.
Click the screen. Do you need to click?
All right.
Wow.
So obviously there was dogs. Yeah, but...
Well, I think the dogs were responding to the sound. I don't think it was the other way around.
Right.
And boy, was that haunting. That was haunting.
Yeah.
That made my heart hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, really. Like it sounded mournful.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded mournful. You know, this is a theme that I'm noticing, and this is something that I hope resonates. And that's a stupid pun, but I hope it resonates with everybody here. Is that I'm not going to want to say, I don't want to liken this to humanness, but I do want to say that this is clearly a close connection to our own linguistic and cultural expectations and norms. There are many cultures that have rituals that in mourning, and they do this thing called the wail. I'm sure you've heard about wailing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Jewish girl. I know all about that.
Yeah. And so and this is so cool how organic this is going. Just so everybody, this is not scripted. They didn't send me none of this. I'm just, I'm coming. This is coming to my mind and my heart as I listen. But what I'm hearing here is this wailing, kind of a feeling here. Now, I don't want to think it's painful in like, oh my gosh, I'm in pain, because I think we'd have a different sound. This sounds like somebody else lamenting or wailing or feeling mournful over the loss of something or someone, and I could be completely wrong. It actually could be a warning call. Because when you think about it, we also have sirens that make this kind of sound where it's a slow rise and it gets to the certain note and then it goes back down. And it kind of lets all of the people around to know, okay, we have to be alert. We have to be ready. We have to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
So something that it surprised me about this, normally, and with according to all encounter witness testimonies, the dogs would have been long gone.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the dogs were still there responding to it, I mean, I don't think that sound was coming from a creature that was threatening to the dogs at that point.
Makes sense.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because normally dogs, the minute they sense one of these, they're out. There's like, no, they're just, we're not going there. And they don't stay to engage.
Wow. I'm getting goosebumps right now. I know, I'm not lying. I have goosebumps right now. Like my brain just had an image of what if they did experience loss and they had just come across a loved one that was injured or even worse, dead. And this was the sound that they were making in that moment. I'm going to go biblical here, but let's think about the choir song, When David Heard. Mm-hmm. All you hear is my son, my son, my son, my son for 4.5, 5.5, depending on who wrote it, Eric Whitaker, 16.5 minutes. And it's just one vowel. And it's this long sound that has this envelope that just continuously expands. And the emotive quality is so strong. And yeah, I can sense that with what you just said with the dogs. The dogs didn't sense fear. The dog sensed something else.
almost like, because non-human forms of nature are so much more humane to each other overall than humans are. And,
Yes.
and dogs are so, well, I'll just say they're so psychic. They're so empathic.
Yes, they are.
And so when there's another humanoid in pain,
yeah,
I know that when I'm upset, my dog, she joins right in. And so.
Yeah. So, yeah, like one of our friends from Texas says it sounded like a lonesome, like,
yeah, could be.
Sound.
Yeah,
and then
lonesome.
If that was his mate.
Yeah, absolutely. It did have that feeling to it.
Yeah,
and it did sound like a male.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like a female. It sounded like a male to me. And it's about a fifth. And it was definitely in the modal, the chest voice. It was definitely in its chest voice. And it when it got to the higher note of that, I would say that just think about a man who's yelling, not like a painful yell, but like grieving yelling. We get to that highest note and we press it, for a little longer before we go back down. And that's what I thought of. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Another commenter, Judy, said, could be a burial ritual.
Back to the rituals. Yes, that's what I was saying. Rituals. Yeah. I believe that they have rituals. And I think we're hearing and we're documenting not just ritual, but we're documenting culture. We're documenting ways in which they communicate in specific modes, in specific parts of their life. I think that they're very complicated, just like we are. And they're not just going through finding food, procreate. Yeah. I think there's the family unit. I think there's community. I think there's education. I think there's duty and sense of purpose. And we're hearing all aspects of this, and both from the male side and the female side.
So guess what that is suggesting? That we are documenting sentient self-awareness and humanity.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. You know what? We are down to 2 minutes. Holy cow. Holy wow. Holy hell. Which means we're going to have to wrap this up. But I think we're going to have future encounters, no pun intended. So I did have a question for both.
Okay.
Other primates, male and female. Is there, for instance, is there a difference between how a female orangutan vocalizes and a male orangutan? Or,
well, I don't know.
I mean,
I'm not a primatologist.
I know, but they are part of the
exactly
primate family, which we're a part of. So that was my question for.
Well, I'm a music guy and a voice guy, but it would sound like you need a zoologist or a person,
right,
a person who really understands the anatomy and physiological nature of a particular primate or group of primates, and they can tell you with incredible amounts of experience the different sounds they hear from those. Me, I can't.
Okay.
All right. The guy who recorded most of these, he and I's had longer conversations, and he's had these sent to different vocal labs and had them listen to it and put on spectrographs. And one thing he said that they were sometimes some of these sounds were doing two octaves at the same time.
Yes, I would imagine so, or more.
Yeah. And is that something humans can't do, or can we do that?
No, so if, and I know we don't have a lot of time, this is like a whole nother topic, but if you were to get a spectrograph, it would actually show you every single frequency that's being vibrated within a space. And it's caused by the resonant cavity of the producer. Mm-hmm. Me, when I sing and a spectrograph is there, you're going to see 2-3 octaves worth of that. But with a common, like a normal everyday person who doesn't have vocal training, you're going to see very narrow. So with training, it will expand, but just the average everyday person, it might not. So That's important to recognize.
So in some of these, they said they have analyzed them and found 5 octaves, and they said humans can't do that.
I would believe that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Final question, and this comes from our friend, the Squatch and Cowboy.
Yeah. Yep.
He's from Texas.
He's from Texas.
And he's going to be following up on a report we got in Nacogdoches in 2 weeks. He said he's going out for us. He wants to know if Dr. Hansen believes in Bigfoot.
I don't have any reason not to.
Okay.
No, look, I'm all about evidence.
Yeah.
But I also have this, like I kind of want it to be real. And I don't have any evidence on one side or the other that would say that that they do not exist. I want to believe that they do exist. And when I listen to these, I'm listening to these recordings and having this conversation with the assumption that they do.
All right.
Great answer.
answer.
Okay. Well, with that, everyone, thank you so much for listening. I hope you really got as much out of tonight as we did. This was fascinating. We will have you back. We will send you files to run through your spectrograph.
Yeah.
So make sure you like and subscribe and share this with all your friends. Please get us out there. We made the mistake of making a joke about those words that shall not be used on YouTube anymore, and we got shadow banned. Yes. Don't make a joke about Bigfoot's wearing face coverings for certain things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so anyway, but remember that our job is to get to our screen. Our job is to investigate the unexplained,
not to explain the uninvestigated.
So make sure you keep it squatchy
and go out and find Bigfoot.
Bye.
Bye. Where's the card? There we go.